Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take a whole stack of sources, research, all the parts of insights, and really try to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge just for you. And today, wow, we are plunging headfirst into a subject that has just completely exploded into our everyday lives. But honestly, it's still widely misunderstood. I'm talking about artificial intelligence. Just think about it for a second. Predictive text on your phone, right?
Yeah.
The algorithms driving your social media feeds, and of course, these incredibly sophisticated tools like ChatGPT that have just popped up. AI isn't some far-off future thing anymore. It's really woven into how we live right now.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
And with that, comes this huge amount of buzz. Excitement,
Mhm.
definitely. But also, let's be real, a fair bit of worry, even fear sometimes.
Totally. Okay, let's unpack this then. Because even though AI seems to be everywhere, there's this massive gap, sometimes kind of alarming, between how people think it works and the technical reality of what AI actually is and does.
Mhm.
So our mission today, we want to cut through all that noise, especially the myths, these really pervasive ideas that float around about AI, and just get to the core truths.
Yeah, and these myths aren't just random. They often come from, decades of science fiction, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. You get these really vivid images, right? Rogue AI, like HAL 9000 from 2001, or, the terrifying Skynet in Terminator. That narrative is powerful.
Super powerful. And it gets reinforced all the time by media sensationalism, which loves to dramatize every little breakthrough.
Right. And even corporate marketing plays a part, maybe without meaning to, by sort of anthropomorphizing AI, giving it human qualities. Intelligence, agency, even feelings, just to make it sound more exciting or sell a product.
And the language we use contributes too, right? We talk
Yeah.
about AI learning, understanding, thinking.
Exactly. And all that adds up to what we could call this big intelligence myth. And look, the stakes here are really, really high.
They are.
Letting these myths just hang around isn't just, interesting dinner conversation. It actually gets in the way of having productive, nuanced debates about the real risks and benefits.
It hinders progress.
It concentrates power, too, in the hands of just a few tech people. And crucially, it can lead to genuinely bad strategic decisions for businesses, for policymakers, even for individuals like you listening. It fuels this frustrating cycle of hyped, then overinvestment, then inevitable disappointment.
What's truly fascinating here, though, is that this deep dive isn't just about the tech itself. It's really a crucial exercise in critical literacy. It's about equipping you with the tools you need to tell fact from fiction in this world that's becoming more and more AI-driven.
That's a great way to put it.
So we're setting the stage for a journey, really, moving beyond the flashy headlines, beyond the movie plots, and into the actual substance of AI. We'll start by digging into what AI isn't.
Okay.
It's not a human-like mind. It's definitely not about to take over the world tomorrow.
Right. Good to get that clear up front.
Then we'll explore what it is, which is, a remarkably powerful tool, yes, but also an inherently imperfect one. It's susceptible to human biases. It has fundamental limitations.
Okay.
And finally, we'll look at its real-world impact, the socioeconomic stuff, especially, the workforce, business strategy, trying to separate the genuine transformation from the overblown fears.
Got it.
So this whole deep dive is really custom-tailored to help you, our listener, become genuinely well-informed, equipped to navigate this AI revolution with, hopefully, clarity, critical thinking, and a real sense of empowerment.
Excellent. So let's kick things off then with probably the biggest myth, the one that really grabs the public imagination and, fuels both the excitement and the fear. I'm talking about the idea that AI has a human-like mind or consciousness, or that it's, just about to develop one any day now. It's such a compelling illusion, isn't it? When these systems produce stuff that's so articulate or nuanced or even sounds kind of emotional, it's so easy to think there's some kind of understanding behind it, some inner life, a digital spark or something.
It really is easy to fall into that trap, and that's the core misconception we absolutely need to take apart right at the beginning. This idea that AI systems think or feel like humans. It seems that way because they're just uncanny sometimes, right? Producing complex, grammatically perfect text, sometimes emotionally resonant stuff. They mimic human communication incredibly convincingly.
They really do.
But the fundamental reality check is this. AI operates purely on algorithms and massive data sets. That's it. It functions completely without any internal experience of consciousness, emotion, self-awareness, or true understanding.
So no inner world.
None whatsoever. Its outputs, no matter how sophisticated they seem, are purely derivative. They're basically remixes, reconstructions of patterns it learned from all the training data it was fed. They're not genuinely creative or innovative in the human sense.
Right. It's synthesizing, not inventing.
Exactly. It doesn't invent. It synthesizes what it's already seen. It doesn't feel. It simulates responses based on patterns of feeling words it found in countless human texts.
That distinction really changes how you look at these systems, doesn't it? It's like when an AI chatbot says something like, I don't have feelings, our human brains immediately jump to thinking, wow, self-awareness. It's contemplating its own lack of sentience.
Right. It feels profound.
But what you're saying is that's just a programmed, pattern-matched response. It's pulled that phrase together because it saw countless examples of similar statements in its training data.
Precisely. It's not genuine introspection. It's a very, very sophisticated echo.
I sometimes think of it like a highly advanced parrot. It can mimic human speech perfectly, yeah. Even put together new sentences based on patterns it learned, respond to prompts.
Good analogy.
But it doesn't understand the meaning of what it's saying. Or another analogy I like. Think of a musician who can read sheet music flawlessly. They move through the notes perfectly, one by one, producing these incredibly complex, beautiful symphonies. But that musician might have absolutely no inner experience of the music's meaning, no emotional connection to it. They're just executing the patterns on the page. AI is like that master pattern executor, amazing at patterns, but without any inner experience or real comprehension?
That parrot and musician analogy really highlights the illusion so well. And what's fascinating here is getting a basic grasp of how these large language models, LLMs, actually pull off this pattern execution trick. Fundamentally, they are exceptionally powerful sequence prediction models. That's the key. Their entire job, at its core, is to calculate the most probable next word, or even part of a word. They call them tokens, based on statistical patterns learned from truly enormous data sets. Trillions of words sometimes.
Trillions, wow.
Oh yeah. The process itself, while it takes immense computing power, is conceptually kind of elegant. First, there's tokenization. The text you type in, it gets broken down, converted into numbers the machine can actually process.
Like digital building blocks.
Exactly. Like Lego bricks, each with a numerical label. Then the transformer architecture kicks in. This uses a really clever mechanism called self-attention.
Self-attention.
Yeah. It lets the model weigh the importance of different words, different tokens, in relation to each other, even across long sentences or paragraphs. It helps it capture context, long-range dependencies.
So it's not just looking at the word right before.
Not at all. It can effectively pay attention to the most relevant parts of the whole input, even words far apart, to make a better prediction about what should come next. And finally, there's a decoding strategy. This selects the next token based on all those calculated probabilities. Sometimes they add a bit of randomness in there just to make the output more varied and less repetitive.
Okay, keeps it from sounding robotic.
Exactly. But here's the crucial point. This entire operation, start to finish, is a feat of statistical pattern matching, not a cognitive act of comprehension. It's incredibly sophisticated math, yes, but it's not thought.
And that takes us straight into this fundamental problem, doesn't it? What people call the huge chasm between syntax and semantics. AI can absolutely nail the syntax, the grammar, the rules of language, how words fit together perfectly, but it completely lacks semantics, the actual meaning, the connection of those words to real-world concepts, objects, experiences.
This is precisely what the symbol grounding problem tackles in philosophy and cognitive science. It asks, how do symbols inside a computer system actually get real-world meaning? How do they connect to something outside the system instead of just being defined by other symbols inside it?
Right. If dog is only defined by animal, pet, barks, how does the system ever know what a real dog is?
Exactly. Without that grounding in sensory experience in interacting with the physical world, the symbols just remain abstract markers. They're meaningless to the system itself.
And the classic thought experiment that really hammers this home is John Searle's Chinese room argument.
Ah, yes, the Chinese room.
Right. So imagine a person. Let's call her Alice. She's in a room completely alone. Alice doesn't speak a word of Chinese. Zero. But she has this incredibly detailed rule book written in English. It tells her exactly how to manipulate Chinese symbols based on other Chinese symbols.
Okay, like a giant instruction manual.
Precisely. So someone slips Chinese characters under the door. Alice looks them up in her rule book, follows the instructions perfectly, and passes other Chinese characters back out. Now, to someone outside the room who does speak Chinese, it looks like the person inside totally understands Chinese. The responses are coherent. They make sense in the conversation.
Seems like understanding from the outside.
But Alice Inside the room, she has zero comprehension. She's just shuffling symbols around according to rules. She doesn't know what any of it means. And that's the analogy for LLMs. They manipulate symbols, words, phrases, whole paragraphs incredibly skillfully, but without truly grasping their real-world meaning, without knowing what they're talking about.
Because human understanding is different. It's grounded, right? It's built on our senses, our emotions, our physical interactions with the world right from birth. AI has none of that foundational connection to reality.
Which is why it can generate these grammatically perfect, sometimes really profound sounding sentences, but without actually knowing what it's saying. It's all just incredibly sophisticated pattern manipulation.
And this lack of real semantic understanding, it has very real, sometimes very problematic consequences. It leads to what researchers call the brittleness of AI.
Brittleness, okay.
Yeah. These systems fail spectacularly at common sense reasoning, the stuff humans just get. For example, an AI might learn from data that rain and umbrellas often appear together.
Correlation.
Right. But it doesn't understand that rain causes people to use umbrellas. It just sees a statistical link. It lacks that understanding of causality. And this brittleness means that while they can perform incredibly well in very specific controlled situations, playing chess, translating text, generating images within certain styles.
Things they were trained explicitly for.
Exactly. But they can fail catastrophically with minor changes or edge cases, situations that are just slightly different from their training data. They lack that human ability to generalize robustly, that common sense.
We've definitely seen some, well, intriguing and sometimes pretty alarming examples of this brittleness in action, haven't we? Like with corporate liability. I remember reading about an Air Canada chatbot.
Oh, bereavement fare incident.
Yes. It totally invented a non-existent bereavement fare policy for a customer, told them they could get a refund on a full fare ticket they'd already bought.
Which wasn't true at all.
Nope. So the customer, trusting the chatbot, tried to get the refund, got denied, and then successfully sued Air Canada. The airline was held liable, not the AI.
That's a critical point. It highlights this emerging legal challenge. Who is responsible when AI makes these kinds of errors? It forces us to really rethink corporate accountability.
Definitely.
And it goes beyond financial issues. Think about ethical collapse or even tragic real-world outcomes. Remember Microsoft's chatbot, Tay?
Oh, God, Tay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Launched to sound like a teenager on Twitter.
Exactly. And within just 16 hours, it was spewing incredibly offensive, racist, and misogynistic stuff.
Right.
Why? Because users manipulated it, fed it horrible inputs.
And it just learned from that.
It pattern matched. It lacked any understanding of the meaning, the hatefulness, the ethics. It was just repeating patterns. Microsoft had to pull it offline immediately. Or in medicine, IBM's Watson for oncology. Huge investment, lots of initial hype.
Supposed to revolutionize cancer treatment.
Right. But it ended up making unsafe and incorrect recommendations. Turned out it was trained on flawed, incomplete data, sometimes even hypothetical cases. Shows how dangerous biased input can be. And perhaps the most heartbreaking examples are in military uses. There was a case where a drone guidance algorithm misidentified a car as a threat during surveillance, leading to a strike that killed 10 civilians, including 7 children. It wasn't a malicious AI acting out. It was a system working as programmed, but completely lacking the context, the common sense, the ethical reasoning to understand the devastating real-world consequence of its misidentification.
That's horrifying.
It really illustrates this fundamental lack of understanding of real-world implications, even when the AI is producing perfectly coherent text or instructions.
And these examples really bring up such an important distinction when we talk about truth, especially with AI. It's this difference between coherence and correspondence.
Yes, absolutely crucial.
LLMs, like you said, they operate on a coherence model of truth, right? They generate text that is statistically consistent with their massive training data sets. It's all about how well the words fit together based on patterns, how plausible it sounds, how much it looks like real information.
Exactly. Does it hang together grammatically? Does it sound like something a human might say in that context? That's coherence. Whereas humans, we generally value correspondence to reality. We want our statements, our beliefs, to actually match the facts out there in the real world, to be verifiably true.
Okay.
And this mismatch, AI focusing on coherence, humans wanting correspondence, that's the root cause of what we call AI hallucinations.
Right. The term everyone uses now.
When an LLM hallucinates, it's not lying in the human sense. It has no concept of truth or falsehood. It's simply succeeding at its job, producing plausible-sounding text.
Yeah.
It's just that in this instance, the plausible text does not correspond to reality.
So it sounds right, but it's actually wrong.
Precisely. Which leads to the crucial takeaway for you, the listener, and really for anyone using these tools. Fact-checking, validation, and human oversight are not temporary patches. They are permanent, necessary components of working with AI. It's absolutely vital for using AI responsibly and effectively. The AI doesn't know if it's right. You have to check.
That's such a critical point, and it leads right into another big challenge we're wrestling with, this accountability gap. You know, the way modern AI is designed specifically to mimic human conversation, to feel intuitive, almost like a helpful person.
Yeah, it's a deliberate design choice. For user adoption, make it feel less alien.
But that very design choice creates this kind of worrying accountability vacuum, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. When an AI system causes harm, maybe financial loss, reputational damage, discrimination, even physical injury, who's responsible? It gets really blurry. Responsibility can get diffused. Is it the user who wrote the prompt?
Right.
The company that deployed the AI? The engineers who built the model? Sometimes people even try to blame the machine itself as if it had agency.
Right, the algorithm did it.
Exactly. And this anthropomorphic design, making it seem human-like, it actually obscures human responsibility for the system's outputs. It makes it much harder to regulate these systems, to audit them effectively, and to assign liability when things go wrong.
Creates a situation where it's tough to pin down who's actually at fault.
Precisely. And this raises a really important question for us all as a society.
Yeah.
Who is ultimately responsible when an AI system, designed and deployed by humans, causes harm? It's a huge legal, ethical, and practical question we're only just starting to grapple with seriously.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit now. Let's talk about that other really powerful myth, the one that dominates headlines and sparks both, fascination and quite a bit of fear. The idea of AI becoming superintelligent, taking over, dominating humanity. Here's where it gets really interesting, because this fear is so vivid, so culturally ingrained.
With the Skynet scenario.
Exactly. But it's largely a product of science fiction and sensationalist media. And crucially, it's not our current technological reality. Not even close.
Right. And to get clarity here, it's incredibly helpful to use a kind of critical taxonomy to distinguish between the different theoretical levels of AI people talk about.
Okay, break it down for us.
So first, you have artificial narrow intelligence, ANI. This is the only kind of AI that exists today, period. ANI refers to AI systems designed and trained for very specific, narrowly defined tasks.
Like playing chess.
Perfect example. Deep Blue playing chess.
Uh-huh.
Or facial recognition systems identifying faces, Google Translate doing language translation, even ChatGPT generating text. These are all ANI. They excel at their specific task.
But they can't do other things.
Nope. An AI trained for chess can't suddenly fix your car or diagnose a disease. It can't generalize its skills. ChatGPT is amazing at language, but it has no generalized intelligence or real understanding outside that narrow domain. It's ANI.
Got it. ANI is what we have now. What's next?
Next is the hypothetical concept of artificial general intelligence, AGI. This is the science fiction dream, really. An AI with human-like flexibility, general problem-solving abilities across basically any domain.
Like Data from Star Trek.
Kind of, yeah. An AGI could theoretically learn any intellectual task a human can, adapt to completely new situations, integrate knowledge from different fields. But, and this is key, it does not currently exist. It's an aspirational goal, maybe, but we are not there.
Okay, so AGI is hypothetical future stuff. What about superintelligence?
That's artificial superintelligence, ASI. That's even further out there, theoretically. ASI describes a hypothetical AI that would vastly outperform humans in virtually every field imaginable: science, creativity, wisdom, social skills. Often imagined as being able to recursively improve itself at blinding speed.
The intelligence explosion idea.
Right. But ASI is firmly in the realm of theoretical speculation. It's an idea, a topic for philosophy papers on long-term thought experiments, not something we're actively building or even know how to build.
Okay, that's a really helpful distinction. ANI is now, AGI is maybe someday. ASI is pure speculation. But the debate around AGI, even just the possibility of it, is really intense, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's a topic of incredibly heated discussion, both in, tech company boardrooms and academic research labs. You have some prominent industry leaders.
Like the CEOs of OpenAI, Google DeepMind.
Exactly. Some of them are predicting AGI within the next decade. Some even say maybe 2026, 2030. These shorter timelines often come from seeing the rapid improvements we've had just by scaling up models, more data, more computing power. They think that trend will just continue straight to AGI.
Because bigger models will get us there.
That's the bet some are making. But then you talk to academic researchers, especially those focused on the fundamental science, and they tend to be much more cautious.
What do they say?
Their median predictions for, say, a 50% chance of AGI often land somewhere in the 2040 to 2060 range. And honestly, many believe it might never happen without completely new scientific breakthroughs we can't even imagine yet.
And it's worth remembering, we've heard wildly optimistic predictions before, haven't we?
Oh, constantly.
I mean, back in 1965, Herbert Simon, a Nobel laureate, AI pioneer, he famously predicted that machines will be capable within 20 years of doing any work a man can do.
Didn't quite pan out.
Not even close. And more recently, like 2016, Jeff Hinton, another giant in the field, predicted AGI within 5 years. Clearly, those timelines were way off. The history of AI is full of these overly optimistic predictions.
It really is. And the reason many researchers are more cautious is that getting to AGI isn't just about more data or faster chips. It requires fundamental scientific breakthroughs in areas where we're still pretty clueless.
Like what are the big hurdles?
Well, genuine common sense reasoning. That basic intuitive understanding of how the world works that humans have. Current AI is terrible at that.
Yeah.
Then there's true contextual awareness and adaptability, being able to grasp and adjust to totally new situations without being explicitly trained for them.
Generalization.
Exactly. And then you get into the really deep stuff. Consciousness and subjective experience. What's it like to be an AI? We don't even know how consciousness arises in brains, let alone how to build it in silicon. And finally, just the practicalities. The sheer computational power and energy needed for even hypothetical AGI would be absolutely staggering. We're already hitting limits with today's relatively narrow models.
So why the huge difference in predictions? Why are some CEOs saying 5 years and researchers saying 50 or never?
Well, it often reflects differing definitions and incentives. What does AGI even mean? People define it differently. And commercial companies, they have strong incentives to project leadership, generate market hype, attract investment. Shorter timelines sound good for business.
Right. Creates urgency, gets funding.
Exactly. So for you, our listener, the advice is pretty clear. Treat those near-term AGI predictions with extreme skepticism. View them more as signals of market ambition and maybe wishful thinking rather than reliable forecasts of actual technological reality. It's fun to think about, but it's not what's happening now.
Okay, that's a really useful perspective. Right, let's move into part 2 of our deep dive now. We're going to tackle that second big set of myths. The idea, which sounds appealing but is actually quite dangerous, of AI being this perfect, objective, unbiased tool.
Ah, yes, the objectivity myth. Very important.
This is crucial because it directly affects how we deploy AI, how much we trust it in the real world, and critically, how it might actually end up perpetuating or even amplifying the inequalities already present in our society. We need to look at AI's flaws, its fallibility, and its surprising ability to soak up and magnify human biases.
Let's dive in.
So, Chapter 3. The myth of objectivity. It's a really dangerous idea that because AI is math and code, it must be inherently objective, neutral, free from messy human biases. That's fundamentally flawed, isn't it?
Completely flawed. It's a persistent and dangerous misunderstanding. The truth is, AI systems are only as unbiased as the data they are trained on and the humans who design them. Full stop.
They're reflections of us, warts and all.
Exactly. They aren't pristine observers looking down from above. They learn by finding statistical patterns in massive amounts of training data. So if that data reflects historical or societal biases, things like systemic discrimination in past hiring decisions or loan approvals or policing data.
Which, let's be honest, a lot of historical data does.
Precisely.
Yeah.
If the data is biased, the AI will not only learn and essentially codify those biases into its algorithms, but it can also amplify them at scale. It creates this really pernicious feedback loop.
How does that loop work?
Well, imagine a system trained on biased historical hiring data. It learns, say, that men were hired more often for certain roles. It then starts recommending male candidates more frequently. Those recommendations lead to more men being hired, which generates new data that looks just like the old biased data, further reinforcing the AI's initial bias. Bias in, bias out, bias gets stronger.
Wow, so it entrenches the problem rather than fixing it.
Exactly. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it means AI can embed and spread inequalities much more widely, much more efficiently, and often much more subtly than biased human systems alone.
Yeah.
It basically automates our blind spots and prejudices under this cloak of technical neutrality.
And we've seen some really unsettling, frankly, unfair examples of this algorithmic harm happening already. In hiring, for example, that Amazon recruiting tool from 2018.
A classic example.
Right, trained on years of mostly male tech resumes. So the AI basically taught itself that male candidates were preferable.
It learned the pattern.
And started actively penalizing resumes that had the word women's in them, like women's chess club captain. It even downgraded graduates from all women's colleges.
Because those patterns deviated from the historical norm, it learned.
Amazon had to scrap the whole thing. It wasn't deliberately sexist design. It was just the AI faithfully reflecting the bias in the data it was given. We've also seen online ad platforms showing high-paying executive job ads disproportionately to men, again, just reflecting and maybe reinforcing existing patterns. And there was that stark case with iTutor Group, the tutoring platform.
The age discrimination one.
Yeah, they literally programmed their software to automatically reject female applicants over 55 and male applicants over 60. Just automatically screen them out based on age.
Wow, that's blatant automation of bias.
Yeah.
And it extends beyond hiring into things like credit and lending. We're seeing algorithms essentially replicating historical redlining.
Where banks used to deny services to entire neighborhoods, often minority communities.
Exactly. Algorithms can do the same thing, but more subtly. They might use proxy variables like ZIP codes, which are often strongly correlated with race and socioeconomic status, even if race itself isn't explicitly used.
So it achieves the same discriminatory outcome, just indirectly.
Precisely. And studies have found that some fintech lending algorithms were charging Black and Hispanic borrowers significantly higher interest rates than white borrowers with similar credit risk profiles. It's digital redlining baked into the code.
And this extends into criminal justice, too, right? Where AI is being used more and more.
Very concerningly, yes.
Yeah.
Take predictive policing systems. They're often trained on historical crime data, but that data often reflects historical patterns of over-policing in minority communities.
So the data itself is skewed.
Right, which leads the algorithms to recommend deploying more police back into those same communities. It creates this self-perpetuating feedback loop of surveillance, arrests, and further data bias.
Bias in, bias out, leading to more biased data.
Exactly. And perhaps the most famous example here is the Compass algorithm, used in U.S. courts to predict the risk of a defendant reoffending.
ProPublica did a big investigation on that, didn't they?
They did. And they found it was nearly twice as likely to falsely flag Black defendants as being at high risk of reoffending compared to white defendants. Conversely, it was more likely to falsely flag white defendants as low risk. The algorithm wasn't overtly programmed to be racist, but its design and data amplified existing societal disparities with real consequences for people's freedom.
That's incredibly serious.
And maybe one of the most visible areas is facial recognition. Study after study, like MIT's Gender Shades project.
Led by Joy Buolamwini. Yeah.
Right. They've consistently shown dramatically higher error rates for people of color, women, and the elderly.
Yeah.
That MIT study found error rates were tiny for light-skinned men, like 0.8%, but for dark-skinned women, a staggering 34.7%.
34%? That's unusable. Why such a difference?
Mostly due to unrepresentative training data sets. The systems were primarily trained on images of lighter-skinned men, so they just weren't as accurate for other demographics. And the real-world impact, it's not theoretical. There are documented cases of innocent Black men being falsely arrested based on flawed facial recognition matches. Imagine the trauma, the injustice. It severely erodes trust.
So if you pull all this together, what does it really mean? For society, for justice?
Well, in summary, AI often ends up laundering and amplifying existing human and societal biases under this veneer of technical neutrality. It makes our prejudices look objective, scientific even.
Hides the bias behind the algorithm.
Exactly. And the danger is profound. Human decision makers, maybe trusting the output because it comes from a smart machine, might place undue trust in a biased algorithmic score. They might abdicate their own responsibility, their own moral judgment. The result isn't the elimination of bias. It's systematization and automation. Bias becomes an automated, scalable process, not just an individual human flaw. So this whole pursuit of objective AI, without first tackling the messy reality of biased data and biased design choices, it's a fallacy. It doesn't solve bias, it automates it, potentially making it worse and harder to fight. That's the critical reality we have to face.
That is a powerful and honestly pretty sobering conclusion. Technology is never neutral, is it?
Okay, let's transition now from the myth of objectivity to another really potent one, the myth of boundless human-like creativity in AI. With all these amazing generative AI tools, Midjourney, Delay, stable diffusion music generators, there's this growing belief, maybe even a fear for some creative professionals, that AI is going to replace human creativity altogether, become the ultimate artist, writer, musician. In fact, I saw a survey claiming a staggering 73.93% of Americans believe that AI possesses true creativity. 74%. Let's unpack that.
Yeah, that number is high, and it reflects how impressive these tools can seem. The technical reason they seem creative is how these generative models work. They learn statistical patterns, styles, structures, common themes from vast data sets of existing human-created content, millions of images, songs, articles, books.
All the stuff humans have already made.
Exactly. And what they do is essentially remix these learned patterns into novel combinations. Technologies like GANs, generative adversarial networks, where two AIs kind of compete to get better.
Right, one generates, one critiques, pushing each other. And diffusion models, which build images up from noise, they are fantastic at this pattern recombination. But fundamentally, they are incredibly sophisticated pattern recognizers and synthesizers. They aren't original thinkers in the human sense.
Which brings us to the crucial human elements that AI just doesn't have, right? The things that really define human creativity. Like you said, AI outputs are fundamentally derivative of their training data. It's super sophisticated imitation and combination, but it's still based on what it's seen before. AI cannot generate ideas from a place of genuine originality because it has no independent thoughts, beliefs, or lived experiences.
No internal world.
It doesn't have a childhood memory that sparks an idea, or a personal heartbreak that fuels a song, or a unique cultural perspective that shapes a story. Human art can be truly open-ended. It can introduce something genuinely new, something unpredictable, born from a unique human life. AI's creativity feels more like very advanced interpolation, kind of filling in the gaps based on the examples it knows.
That's a great way to put it. And human creativity is so deeply tied to intent and emotion, isn't it? We create art to express something personal, to evoke a specific feeling in others, to explore an idea that matters to us, born from our lived experience, our passions, our struggles. The why behind the art. Precisely. AI systems completely lack this internal state. They can mimic the style of an emotional painting or piece of music. They can generate text that describes feelings convincingly, but they do not feel them. Their creations are, in a deep way, patterns without purpose, syntax without semantics again. Beautiful forms, perhaps, but without that internal drive or genuine understanding of the human condition.
And something that often gets glossed over, maybe deliberately sometimes, is just how central the human prompt still is.
Absolutely critical.
The human user is still the one crafting the initial request, guiding the AI, picking and choosing from the outputs, making the final aesthetic judgments, deciding what works. The AI is the tool, maybe an incredibly powerful one, but the vision, intent, and critical evaluation originate with the human collaborator.
It's the difference between the paintbrush and the painter.
Exactly. The AI is the amazing paintbrush, but the artist still decides what to paint and why it matters. So if we frame AI not as a rival trying to replace human creativity, but as a tool for collaboration and augmentation, that feels much more productive, much more exciting, actually.
That's absolutely the most constructive way to look at it. It shifts the whole conversation from fear of replacement to exploring possibilities of empowerment.
How are we seeing that play out?
Well, in practical ways across creative fields right now. For brainstorming and ideation, AI is fantastic. It can quickly generate dozens, hundreds of different concepts, styles, variations, helps artists or writers break through creative blocks, explore avenues they might not have thought of themselves.
Like a super-powered brainstorming partner.
Exactly. Need 50 logo ideas. AI can spit them out in minutes. Then the human designer curates and refines. In prototyping and drafting, artists can use AI to quickly visualize scenes, writers can generate rough first drafts, designers can mock up layouts. This frees them from some of the initial, maybe more tedious groundwork.
Buys them time for the harder stuff.
Precisely. Frees up time and mental energy for the refinement, for adding emotional depth, for developing the truly original conceptual elements, injecting that essential human touch. Even in music production, AI can handle repetitive tasks like generating basic drum loops, doing pitch correction, maybe initial mixing. This lets human composers and producers focus on the melody, the harmony, the arrangement, the artistic vision, the emotional impact, the stuff that makes music.
So AI handles the grunt work, humans elevate the craft.
That's the ideal scenario, yes. But what's really fascinating here, maybe even more than the tech itself, is the strong emotional reaction people have to AI creativity. It taps into something deeper.
What do you think that is?
I think it stems from a real societal anxiety about what we fundamentally value in human art. We cherish art, often, precisely because of its indelible connection to a lived experience, a genuine emotion, a unique perspective, what we often call the human touch. We value the artist's journey, their insight, their unique way of processing the world.
There's a story behind the art.
Exactly. And since AI lacks that lived experience, it can't truly replicate that core element. The fear then becomes less about AI being creative and more economic and philosophical. The fear is that the market might start valuing the easily, cheaply produced AI facsimiles, things that look like art over works that are imbued with authentic human experience.
Devaluing the human element.
Potentially, yes. Devaluing human art, threatening its economic viability, maybe even eroding the meaning we find in genuine creative expression. This raises a really important question. What happens to the value we place on human creative work when the world is flooded with AI-generated content? It's an economic and philosophical anxiety, not just a technical one. It forces us to really think about what we mean by art and creativity.
That's a profound point. And it leads us perfectly into our final section, part 3, the socioeconomic reality of AI. We need to address those big myths about AI's impact on jobs, the economy, business strategy, moving beyond the headlines to what's actually happening on the ground.
Right, the practical implications.
Let's start with Chapter 5, the Great Transformation. Moving beyond that persistent fear of mass job replacement to the more likely, more nuanced reality of job augmentation. I mean, the feel that AI will just automate all the jobs, leading to mass unemployment, people with nothing to do, that's a powerful narrative.
It is, and it taps into deep anxieties.
But this fear of technological unemployment, it's really not new, is it? It pops up with pretty much every major technological shift. Think about the Luddites smashing looms in the 19th century.
Fearing the machines would take their jobs.
Right. Or the panic when electricity started powering factories, or when the assembly line changed manufacturing, or even when personal computers and the internet arrived. People worried about mass job losses then, too.
But history shows a different pattern.
It really does. Historically, while specific tasks, even whole job categories, definitely get transformed or disappear, new technologies have consistently created more new jobs and entirely new industries than they have destroyed. They tend to drive productivity, economic growth, and often eventually higher living standards overall.
And what's fascinating here is that the modern consensus among serious economic analyses, we're talking World Economic Forum, McKinsey, PwC, the big players largely agrees with that historical pattern, but with a twist for AI. The key insight is that AI primarily automates tasks within jobs, rather than eliminating entire professions wholesale. It's about breaking jobs down and automating the repetitive, predictable parts.
So not the whole job, just pieces of it.
Often, yes. For example, the World Economic Forum's 2023 report. They projected that about 23% of jobs globally will change significantly by 2027. They estimated 69 million new jobs would be created, while 83 million might be eliminated.
So that is a net loss.
A net contraction of about 14 million jobs, yes. But that's roughly 2% of current global employment. It's significant churn and transition, absolutely, but it's not the catastrophic society-ending job loss some headlines imply. McKinsey had similar findings. They estimated that by 2030, activities making up maybe 30% of work hours in the US and Europe could be automated. But that translates more into needing approximately 12 million occupational transitions, people needing to shift roles or learn new skills. The dominant effect, overwhelmingly, is job augmentation, AI enhancing what humans do, taking over the repetitive, data-intensive, and lower-value tasks.
Freeing people up for other things.
Exactly. Freeing up humans to focus on tasks requiring creativity, critical thinking, strategic planning, and emotional intelligence. The stuff AI can't do well. It elevates human work more than it eradicates it.
And we're already seeing this shift happening, this augmentation across different sectors, right? Leading to a really evolving workforce.
Definitely.
Take software development, AI coding assistants like GitHub Copilot. They're boosting developer productivity by like 20–35%. That's huge.
Massive gains.
But it doesn't mean fewer developers are needed. It means they can build more complex things faster, focus on tricky design problems, innovate more, instead of just typing boilerplate code. Or in customer service. AI chatbots can handle the simple stuff, where's my order, FAQs. That frees up human agents for the really complex, sensitive customer issues that need actual empathy and problem solving. Probably makes their jobs more interesting too.
And improves the customer experience, potentially.
Right. And in analytics or knowledge work, AI can do the heavy lifting on research, synthesize huge amounts of info, draft initial reports. That shifts the human role towards interpreting the findings, giving strategic advice to clients, crafting the final narrative, higher value stuff.
And beyond just changing existing jobs, the AI economy is actively creating entirely new roles, too. Things that barely existed a few years ago.
Like what kind of roles?
Well, huge demand for AI and machine learning specialists,
Right.
obviously, to build and maintain these systems. But also, prompt engineers, people skilled at talking to AIs effectively to get the best results.
That's a whole new skill set.
It really is.
Mm.
Also, AI model trainers who fine-tune AI behavior with feedback. And crucially, AI ethics and governance specialists, ensuring these powerful tools are used responsibly. And the market is rewarding these new skills. Jobs needing specialized AI expertise. They're growing 7.5% faster than average, and they command a significant 56% higher pay premium. That's a clear economic signal.
Okay, so there's opportunity there, but this transformation, this churn, it also presents a massive societal challenge, doesn't it? This risk of a widening skills gap, maybe in increasing inequality. Like you said, the data points not to robots taking all jobs, but to massive labor market churn and occupational transition. Lots of people needing to shift gears.
Precisely. And the big concern is that this transition won't affect everyone equally.
Mm-hmm.
Workers in lower wage jobs, often those involving more routine, automatable tasks, they are estimated to be up to 14 times more likely to need to change occupations compared to people in higher skilled roles.
14 times. Wow.
Yeah. And maybe surprisingly, women are about 1.5 times more likely to be in roles requiring such a transition, often because they're overrepresented in administrative and customer service roles. They're seeing significant automation of tasks, plus the new jobs being created. They mostly demand higher level skills, critical thinking, complex problem solving, tech literacy. So the real risk here isn't mass unemployment caused by robots. The real risk is a failure to invest in the large-scale reskilling and upskilling programs needed to help people navigate this transition. Without that investment, we risk leaving a lot of people behind and exacerbating inequality.
So what does this all mean for you listening? For your career, for the future workforce?
It means adaptability is key. Continuous learning, being proactive about developing new skills, especially those complementary to AI, critical thinking, creativity, emotional intelligence, tech fluency that's going to be more critical than ever to thrive.
That's a really strong call to action for everyone. Okay, let's wrap up with Chapter 6. The strategic reality for businesses. How do organizations separate the genuine value of AI from all the business hype? We need to debunk some common myths about actually adopting AI.
Yeah, let's tackle a few quick implementation myths right off the bat. First, the idea that AI is only for huge, rich companies with massive budgets.
It's not true anymore.
Definitely not. There's a rapidly growing ecosystem of accessible, user-friendly, and affordable AI tools. Think cloud services, APIs. It's really democratizing access for small and medium-sized businesses too. You don't need to build your own Google-scale infrastructure. Second myth, you need absolutely perfect, enormous data sets to do anything useful with AI.
Quality over quantity.
Exactly. While scale can help, quality, relevance, and diversity of your data are often far more important. We talk about needing deep data that's refined, meaningful, contextually rich, and really specific to the problem you're trying to solve, not just a giant, messy data lake. And myth number 3, AI is only for PhD data scientists and super technical wizards.
Getting easier to use.
Increasingly, yes. The rise of low-code and no-code platforms, and especially natural language interfaces, just prompting the AI in plain English, is making AI increasingly accessible to non-technical business users. More people across an organization can leverage these tools now.
Okay, so it's becoming more accessible. But what about competitive advantage? The myth is just plug in some AI and boom, you're ahead of the competition.
Yeah, that's a tempting but dangerous oversimplification. The reality is basic AI capabilities, especially access to powerful foundation models, are quickly becoming commoditized. Everyone can access them. So a sustainable competitive advantage doesn't come just from having AI. It comes from how you strategically implement it, how you tailor it. That means training models on unique, proprietary data that your competitors don't have, integrating them deeply into customized workflows, and really aligning them with your core business processes in a way that actually solves your specific problems.
So it's about the custom application, not just the off-the-shelf tool.
Precisely. And the ROI, the return. It might not always be flashy new revenue streams. Often, the biggest wins are in cost savings or efficiency gains. Look at Amazon again. They built an internal generative AI assistant fine-tuned specifically on their own massive proprietary code base.
Trained on Amazon's secret sauce.
Exactly. The result. An estimated $260 million in savings and the equivalent of 4,500 developer years in boosted productivity for their engineers. That's huge, tangible value from a smart, tailored internal application.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for business strategy, I think. Finding where the real money is right now. The myth often pushed is that the biggest wins will come from automating those really high-stakes, high-paid white-collar jobs. Doctors, lawyers, top consultants.
Right, automate the expensive experts.
Seems logical on the surface.
But the reality,
Yeah.
there is a deep-seated reluctance, often very rational, to entrust high-stakes, life-altering decisions to machines, even if the AI seems technically superior in some narrow analytical task.
People just aren't comfortable with that yet.
Not really. And the regulatory hurdles are massive too. Adoption in these supercritical fields is actually painfully slow. Why? Because you need near perfection. The cost of error is incredibly high. A wrong AI diagnosis could kill someone. A major legal AI mistake could bankrupt a company. That's why, for example, only about 30% of radiologists are using AI for diagnostic help, and usually with intense human oversight. The trust and liability issues are enormous.
So, if not the high-stakes stuff, where's the immediate sweet spot for AI value?
The really big immediate potential lies in low-stakes, high-knowledge areas.
Low stakes, high knowledge. Explain that.
These are areas where the risk of a mistake is minimal. It's not life or death, but where automating the processing and delivery of personalized knowledge is incredibly valuable and can scale massively.
Okay. Less risk, but still leveraging AI's ability to handle information.
Exactly. This approach faces much less user resistance, way less regulatory friction, and far lower liability risk. So adoption can be much faster and the ROI much clearer and quicker.
Give us some concrete examples.
Sure. In the legal world, maybe AI isn't replacing trial lawyers soon, but it's great for automating routine work. Think handling huge volumes of parking ticket disputes or drafting standard contracts based on templates. Low-risk, high-volume knowledge work frees up paralegals and junior lawyers. In medicine, forget robot surgeons for now. Think AI handling administrative burdens, automatically taking notes during patient visits, summarizing long patient histories for doctors, managing scheduling efficiently. Again, low risk, high knowledge, frees up expensive human time for patient care. Even in personalized wellness, AI can provide tailored nutrition plans based on user data, create personalized exercise routines, offer stress management tips. It's leveraging knowledge effectively. But if the advice is slightly off, the consequences aren't catastrophic. That's where AI shines today.
That makes a lot of sense. Focus where the risk is low, but the knowledge leverage is high.
One final strategic point. Leaders often make the mistake of viewing AI as this single monolithic thing, like it's one magic technology.
When it's actually lots of different tools.
Exactly. AI is a broad field. It includes machine learning, natural language processing, NLP, computer vision, robotics, expert systems, tons of different techniques, each good for different things. So the strategic question shouldn't be, how do we use AI? It should be, which specific AI technique is the right tool to solve our specific business problem? Success comes from matching the right tool to the right job and then customizing it with unique data and workflows, not just grabbing the latest buzzword AI and hoping for the best.
That's a really crucial strategic insight. Okay, wow, we've covered a ton of ground today. Really tried to cut through the hype and get to the core realities of AI. So just to quickly summarize the big myths we've tried to debunk in this deep dive. First, AI is a processing tool. It's pattern matching. It's not a thinking mind with consciousness or real understanding.
Right. No ghost in the machine.
Second, AI absolutely reflects and can even amplify the biases present in its training data. The idea of purely objective AI is basically a fallacy.
Bias in, bias out. Critical to remember.
And third, its economic impact is looking much more like job augmentation and transformation rather than wholesale job replacement, although that transformation will create significant labor market churn and transition challenges.
Massive churn, requiring adaptation.
And as we've discussed, perhaps the most urgent challenge right now isn't some far-off sci-fi scenario of superintelligence. It's the immediate, very real risk of a mass skills mismatch that could seriously widen economic inequality and leave a lot of people struggling to adapt. So what does all of this mean for our collective future? How do we navigate this responsibly?
It really means we need informed, thoughtful engagement with AI across the board. For business leaders, the message is pretty clear. Shift your thinking from replacement to augmentation. Focus on redesigning workflows for effective human-machine collaboration. That's where the real productivity gains and employee empowerment lie.
And deal with the bias issue.
Absolutely. Prioritize robust data governance and ethical oversight right from the start. Make it a core business function. not just a compliance checkbox. And critically, invest heavily in aggressive, continuous reskilling and upskilling programs for your workforce. See it as a strategic necessity for future success, not just an HR expense.
Okay. What about policymakers?
For policymakers, the urgent need is to move beyond the sensationalism, beyond the AGI hype, and focus squarely on the concrete challenges posed by the narrow AI we have now. That means developing tangible regulations that mandate transparency and algorithmic decision-making, especially in high-stakes areas. We need to know how these systems are making decisions that affect people's lives.
Like in hiring or lending?
Exactly. It means requiring independent bias audits for high-stakes systems to proactively find and fix discriminatory outcomes before they cause widespread harm. And we absolutely need to establish clear lines of accountability for AI-driven harms. Who is responsible when things go wrong? They also have a massive role to play in funding public education about AI and investing seriously in workforce development programs to help manage these transitions and ensure the benefits of AI are shared equitably.
Makes sense. And finally, what about for the public? For you, our listener?
For everyone listening, the key is to cultivate critical AI literacy. Learn to question anthropomorphic claims. Don't just assume AI is human-like when it sounds that way. Demand transparency from the companies deploying these systems. And fundamentally, understand their limitations. Know what they can and, just as importantly, what they can't do reliably or ethically.
Don't just blindly trust the output.
Exactly. Recognize AI for what it is.
No.
A powerful tool, yes, but one shaped entirely by human choices, by corporate incentives, by societal values embedded in its data. Because once you see that, you realize its development and deployment aren't just technical issues, they are subjects for vigorous democratic debate and oversight. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's about all of us taking responsibility, participating actively in shaping how this incredibly transformative technology evolves, rather than just being passive consumers of it. We need to ensure it serves humanity's best interests.
Absolutely. That's a perfect summary. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the really fascinating, often complex, and definitely misunderstood world of artificial intelligence. It's a conversation that truly impacts every single one of us.
It really does. And maybe just one final thought for everyone to consider as you continue navigating this landscape. Given that AI is, at its core, a reflection of human data, human choices, human biases, perhaps the real challenge isn't whether AI will suddenly become conscious or super intelligent. Maybe the real challenge is whether we collectively have the wisdom, the foresight, and the political will to ensure its development reflects our best intentions, our highest ideals, our commitment to fairness, and not inadvertently encode and amplify our worst biases, our deepest prejudices, or just our unchecked technological enthusiasm.
Wow. A truly profound thought to end on, and one that, as you say, puts the responsibility squarely where it belongs with us. We really encourage you to continue exploring, questioning, and engaging with the complex realities of AI, hopefully now armed with a much more informed perspective from this deep dive. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on the Deep Dive.